to kind of walk you through the process of how you get everything formatted, how you get everything incorporated into your posters. We'll talk a little bit about how to get an idea for how big your text should be and like building out text blocks, all the different elements so that you can put that poster together. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is in PowerPoint, I'm going to show you here in a second, you're going to want to go to design and you're going to want to choose a custom slide size, because we want to make the PowerPoint itself the same size as the poster that we're going to end up with. So we want a poster that's 2 feet wide by 3 feet tall, 24 inches by 36 inches. And you can do that kind of portrait mode, or if you want to rotate your things and you want to have a landscape poster instead, just flip those dimensions. So 36 wide by 24 tall, it'll still print the same way through our printer upstairs. Yeah. The graphs that you've put together, text boxes for any of the introduction sources, all of the different pieces of your poster that you want to present. You're going to add those into your PowerPoint. You're going to arrange them how you want them to be laid out. And then printing it from there is going to be pretty straightforward. You want to save your poster from PowerPoint as a PDF. When the poster is saved in that format, it's going to lock in the dimensions so that when it prints off of the poster printer, it's going to stay the right size. That's just going to make the printing a little bit easier. And then when you've got everything built and you've got that PowerPoint turned into a PDF and ready to put on the printer, that's when you're going to go ahead and make your space appointment. Carve out your time where you're going to have a reservation upstairs so that we can actually print the poster itself. So I'm going to show you in PowerPoint itself what that will look like. If you open up a new PowerPoint presentation, this is what you start with. You want to go up to the top and you want to click on Design. And then you want to come over to the right to Slide Size. There's a little drop-down arrow there. So you want to click on that. And then it gives you a standard or a widescreen option for like a digital presentation. We don't want either one of those. We want this custom slide size. And then it's going to ask us for a width and then a height. So if I'm doing this portrait style, we're just going to type in 24 and 36. That gives me that nice poster. If I wanted it to be landscape style instead, we just flip those numbers. It's going to ask me if I want to maximize or ensure fit. That would matter if I already had content in here, but we want to do this step first so we don't have to change the dimensions or size of any of the things we've added in. So now this is ready for me to start adding content in. There's two things that you want to do to make this next step a little bit easier. When the poster prints, it's going to add a little bit of a border around the side, about 0.2, 0.25 inches, somewhere there, where it's going to cut things off if you have your text go all the way to the edges. So what I like to do, both to remind myself that it's going to do that, and also to make sure that my text and my images are all going to print cleanly and not get cut off from the sides, if you come to Insert across the top of PowerPoint, and then you click on Shapes, and then you click on that little rectangle box, we can do two things with this that are kind of cool. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle in. It doesn't matter how big I start. What I want to do next is at the top, you can see the dimensions that shape is going to be. I want it to be 0.25 inches tall because it's going to go across the top, and that's going to block off the margin where the printer is probably going to cut that off anyway, so I don't want to have any content that spills over past that line. The next thing I want to do is I want to make the width 24 inches so that it matches the whole width of the poster. And then there's two ways that I can do the next part. I can click and drag, which is easy, but sometimes it doesn't go quite where I want it to go. It can be a little annoying to get it to go exactly where I want it to be. The other thing I can do is I can right click on that and then click on this size and position button. And if you've ever worked with like when you're making your graphs, especially, your graph starts at 0, 0, right? And your line graph goes up from there. This is going to work the same idea. This is telling you that its horizontal graph position is 0, and right now its vertical position is 6.69 inches down. We don't want that. We want it to be also at 0. That's going to put it right at the top. That, you don't need to do it that way. I like to do it that way because it's less clicking and dragging, it's more precise. But you can absolutely just click and drag and move this around so that it's at the borders. The other thing that I can do.
So when you do this, okay, so top and down both need a border, right?
Yeah, that makes it a little easier to visualize what kind of space you're working with. So now everything that's white is space that I can put graphs, images, text, and be sure that they're not going to get cut off when the poster actually prints. We're going to do the same thing on the left and the right margin. So for these, instead of the height being 0.25 inches, now I want the height to be the whole height of the poster. It's going to be 36 inches. And then I want the width to be that 0.25 inch margin that I'm adding in. And then we can click and drag, or since I've got this size and position map open, I can cheat. And I can just put 0, 0 in there, and that's going to put that neatly lined up on the left-hand side of my poster. We'll copy and paste it. We'll put another one in just off to the right here.
So when you print out, there'll be blue layer on the side?
Yeah, so it's going to keep whatever color you use. It's a good idea to have a color that you'll recognize when you're designing things, so blue to know that that's the no-go zone. If you want to still have that picture frame border around your poster, whatever color you go with is what it'll print like. If you want it to disappear, you can change these, and instead of filling them with blue, I can fill it with white.
Oh.
And then it fades into the background, and like I've had my guidelines, but I can basically erase them at the end. You can also delete those boxes at the end once you're done using them. The other thing, because PowerPoint is a little weird when you try to drop in a text box. So like say I wanted to have a chunk of text right there at the top left corner, and I want it to be that big because I'm going to fill it with stuff. Once I start typing, it immediately shrinks. I don't want it to do that. I want to keep a better sense of the space that I plan to use. So the way that I usually get around that is to use the shapes for this as well. So I can carve that out, and I know that's going to be where I'm going to put a graph, or that's where I'm going to put the descriptions that go alongside a graph, something like that. And it's going to stay that size because it's a shape. But if I double click on it, I can start typing inside of it. Now, right now, you can probably see that there's letters there, but you can't see them from where you're at because they're way too small. When you were typing on your poster, somewhere around 28 or 32 or 36, those font sizes are a pretty good place to be if you've got a lot of text. If you don't have a whole lot of text, you can go even bigger than that. 48, somewhere in that ballpark. And now you can see somewhat, not super great, but you can see that I've typed some gibberish there. The other thing that you're going to want to keep in mind as you're building out the poster is like, I'm looking at the whole thing right now. If I want to just look at that section, I can zoom in if I hold down the control key and then roll my mouse wheel forward. That'll zoom in so I can see what I'm doing, and I can adjust this a little bit. This is also center aligned. I might want that to be left aligned or right, depending on what we're doing with it. And then I might tinker with whether it's at the top or the bottom of the page there. So that is kind of the broad strokes of how you bring different elements in to put your poster together. The biggest thing is you want to have the right dimensions to start with, so you're building on the right size paper. And then you want to make sure that you include what are the elements we want to introduction.
Everything you want in the paper will be included there: introduction, literature review, methodology, inside participants, instrument, process, data analysis, and your result. So result include the graph and the hypothesis graph and result, and then discussion, and then you'll say the reference you can put as into the QR code.
Yeah.
About that.
So how many of you have made a QR code to link to something before? Okay. I hadn't done that basically until I started working at the pharmacy that I worked at right before this, and then I do it all the time now. So what I usually use, it's just called QR code generator. It's this, this one right here, qr-code-generator.com. Every time you try to create a QR code, it's gonna pop up with we'll link it just to something to create one. So you would put in the web address. And I'll show you how to pull a web address out of a PowerPoint document here in a second. You'll paste that in, you'll click on download, and it's gonna give you this whole ad that feels like you need to click on it. You don't. Just give it a couple seconds and it will eventually prompt to do that download. And downloads just as a frame PNG. We've got an image file that this computer is not set up to load. That's fun. Yeah. So you can also click and drag from wherever you downloaded that file or wherever you downloaded it to and bring it into your PowerPoint. So now this poster, if I scan that QR code right there, it actually goes back to your Canvas, your class page.
But they had to build a reference first.
Yeah, so what you'll do is you've got this share button anytime you're working in PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, any of the other Microsoft products. So if you're in OneDrive and you're building out a Word document that has your references page, you get to do two things with it. So you can have either your whole paper, including the references page at the bottom that you're going to turn in as a Word document. If you come up here to share, it is, you have to be in OneDrive. So same button. When I click on this one, I'm in OneDrive. It's going to give me the option to create a link. That link is what you would use in our QR code generator over here. You would just paste that link directly in here, and then that link will go directly to your paper or your references page, whatever it is that you want to link to. You can link other things the same way. So if you want to link a YouTube video or some other content that maybe a video is a good example because you can't really put that on a poster the same way, but you can put a link on the poster that people can follow and then watch the video.
Mm.
Or it can be a QR code to your surveys. They can go take your survey if they're interested in the project and want to contribute their information. You could put a QR code that links to like an evaluation or feedback. You can cover your poster with all the QR codes that you want, as long as you label them so that people know what they are. Anybody have any questions about the process of making the poster? So from the library's homepage, if you come to the library homepage, you type Makerspace into the search bar over here. So the first option that comes up is going to be this Makerspace guide. And then I'll also send you a link so you can contribute to them so you've got it more directly. But this Makerspace guide gives you an overview of everything, all the other pieces of equipment that we have in there. There's also this schedule a Makerspace appointment button. So we're going to talk about time frame here in a second. This is where you would go once you've got your poster ready to print, to go to your slot for when you're going to come print it. You could also book these appointments right now so you know kind of like, that's my deadline. I have an appointment at, 9:30 on Monday of the week that you presented. I gotta have everything ready and ready by then. The other thing that's on here is there's a how-to guide for doing posters in general. Not as specific as what we just talked about, but this video, if you click on this, it's gonna take you to a YouTube video where I explain that whole process all over again. So you can pause it wherever you need to, listen to it again. There's a written out version if you are more visual. If you'd like to kind of just see us step by step, but you don't necessarily want to listen to the presentation again. We have a couple different options to help walk you through. And if at any point, like, this wasn't clear, the video didn't make sense, if you're stuck, by all means, feel free to email me, feel free to stop by the desk. I can absolutely help you out. When you're all ready to make that appointment, and you've got your poster planned out, and ready to print, you click on the Schedule a Makerspace Appointment button. And normally, on any other day, so it is not towards the end of the semester. There are a whole bunch of time slots available. Tomorrow, we're still printing a lot of the internship posters. The internship posters are up in the table from 11:30 to 12:30 on Friday. They're doing a similar project, so if you kind of want to see what a poster presentation looks like, what that feels like, what the presenters are doing, how they're engaging with people who go by, really good experience, definitely good. I'm sure they would also like to have some people, filter through, ask them questions. And they'll have, if you're curious like what font size they used or how they designed their poster, if you find one that you really like, it can be a good way to get some tips. Friday, there is exactly one half-hour slot that's still open. So this week is booked with the internship posters. Once you start getting into next week, you see that these are each at half-hour intervals, and they run pretty much from 9 to 3. So got a lot of availability during the day, the farther away from the DJ you get. We're thinking Friday from 10 to noon. 10 to noon for the actual poster presentation, and then so by your class on Wednesday.
Yeah, our goal is on Wednesday, the afternoon, we put our poster in the library. So.
Yeah, so you want to have things printed before your class time on Wednesday that week, so that we can hang them upstairs. That's going to give you Monday, which is completely open. Tuesday, where there's limited availability. We've got some other library programming that's going on, and then Wednesday morning, there's a little bit of availability too if you wanted to go to Wednesday beforehand. We'll say those Wednesday, Tuesday dates are probably going to fill up first, so just kind of plan accordingly. They're half-hour appointments. It usually doesn't take that long. Probably about 10-15 minutes if you've got all your files ready to go. You load it onto the printer and knock on wood. The printer has been cooperating, so everything should go.
And they need us email you or put into their restaurant.
Good point, yeah. If you want to email the library ahead of time, if you want to email me ahead of time with your files, that works. If you have a flash drive that you can load your files onto, that's the easiest way, but you don't have to do that. Emailing is perfectly fine.